Spending the most time on the study is Bob Lowe, Assistant Dean of the Graduate School and UFO Project Coordinator. His office is the center of project activities. Lowe has 2 secretaries. He also has a small library on UFOs, a modest selection of pictures, and a mounting pile of correspondence. I asked if any large problems have come up in the project.
Well, the whole problem is a big puzzle, and I don't think one can say that big problems come up, but we certainly have a difficult problem to pursue. It's hard to know how to go about studying this thing. How would you do it if somebody suddenly handed you the job? You investigate unidentified flying objects. How do you go about doing that? That's the problem that we've had, and we've been wrestling with it. It's a tough one, but I think we're making some headway.
The overall director of the project is Dr. Edward Condon, one of the most experienced and distinguished scientists in the United States or anywhere else. He's a physicist and a former director of the National Bureau of Standards in Washington, D.C. Condon is one of the main reasons the Air Force chose the University of Colorado for the UFO project. At the top of impressive JILA Tower on the CU campus, I talked with Dr. Condon and asked if he knows how the UFO study will now proceed.
Well, we're just getting started. I must say that the last 2.5 months or so that we've been looking into this indicate that the total situation is much more complicated than we appreciated at first, so that while we have some notions of what we're going to do, I don't have any feeling at all of a very orderly or well-organized thing at this stage. One of the most difficult things is that all of the phenomena are of such short duration, and the reports have a way of coming in after the thing is all over, so that it looks almost hopeless to plan on getting much in the way of being able to, hop in a car and dash out, or hop in a jet plane and dash out and get there yourself and see it before it's all over, because most people that see things only report after they've seen it and it's gone away, and then they come in and use the telephone, so it's too late. So that's a great difficulty. I don't mean to give up on that. The important thing would be to try to do that and get some pictures, better pictures, and pictures of which we were sure of the reliability simply because our own people had taken them. We would like to get some spectroscopic observations, but that too is difficult. One of the things that's common to many of the reports, I don't mean statistically, but a common category, is people complain about ignition failures on their cars, and we're negotiating with some of the principal ignition engineers in Detroit to make a special study just on that phase of it. That I don't like to be more specific than that because it hasn't been fully set up yet, but we've had indications that we can get a group together that will look into that for us. Another characteristic is a good many people have reported, I'm not a medical man, so I don't quite know what the proper term is, but people report that feelings of heat, or as if they're like diathermy, heat treatment, being very, very much overcome with a feverish feeling when something like an UFO was around, when they were meaning by that they saw something at the same time, feelings that would go away. So we're going to try to get some medical people to give a special attention to those reports. Of course, we'll look into all of the other things that have been suggested, like the ball lightning possibility and various other things. A great many of the things that have been suggested, it must be must be realized, are things that might be explanations of some of the reports. But I'm convinced there will be no one single thing that accounts for all of the reports, simply because they themselves are so different in character.
As the UFOs have attracted public attention nationally, so have they drawn reaction to the University of Colorado. I asked Dr. Condon about public reaction.
Oh, it's been very good. We've had a very large amount of mail. By that, I would guess between 700 or 800 to 1,000 letters along in there. A great many of them are from people that would like to have jobs, and I suppose I ought to say that there's not nearly as many jobs on this as people seem to think. Secondly, a lot of people have written in to tell us about experiences they've had. I've had many university people who have, in other universities across the country, have written in to volunteer their help, and I don't mean as job seekers in the sense of wanting to be on the payroll, but wanting to know what they can do cooperatively at their places. So the acceptance that way is extremely good at this time. Now, our problem is just to try to make some rational sense out of this very complicated picture.
And a complicated picture it is, not only for the University of Colorado, but for the Air Force, for private UFO organizations, and for plain Mr. Citizen who just wants some answers.